So I want to welcome you all to our workshop today, Miss CEO's workshop on well-being and positive leadership. This is actually the fourth installment of our spring 2020 workshop series. And my name is Nita Singh-Kaushal. I am the founder of Miss CEO, and I am so happy to be here with all of you today to discuss such an important and timely topic during these uncertain times. For those of you who are new to the organization, welcome. I actually, I recognize a lot of names on the registration forms of students who have attended our workshops and programs in the past, and it's so good to see you again. For those of you who are new, thank you for sharing the time with us today and getting to know us. We are actually an organization that is devoted to empowering young women starting in high school with leadership education, mentorship, and career exploration opportunities so that you can discover your inner leader and thrive in a lot of different aspects of your life. And since our founding in 2012, we have actually trained over 15,000 students all over the world, and we're still growing, which is very, very exciting. Part of the reason we have been so successful in helping young women discover their inner leader and discover this transformative experience is because we teach a lot of skills that aren't traditionally covered in the classroom. So a lot of our skills are designed to help you build your confidence, discover your voice, strengthen your interests and the areas that you want to pursue so that you are able to pursue your academic, professional, and personal goals. Furthermore, we have found that in empowering you and helping you learn skills like goal setting, advocating for yourself, managing your time, learning from failure, learning how to connect with others, sponsors, mentors, you can really find skills that will help you on your journey to becoming a confident young woman, a confident leader one day in all aspects of your life. So it brings me to today's topic because, as you saw on the previous slide, we've spent a lot of time, and especially this spring, given the fact that we're all sheltering in place, discussing skills that we thought would be helpful for you. We talked recently about setting up informational interviews. We've talked about how to think about internships and opportunities this summer. But another topic that has become really important for all of us, not just students in high school, but for adults as well, is this idea of taking care of our well-being, our mental health, so that we have the energy to create, to lead, to thrive in so many different aspects of our life. And so I am thrilled to welcome a wonderful leadership coach and our wonderful career speaker today, Robyn Woodman, who's going to introduce herself shortly, who is going to share her expertise and her insights on the topic. I'm also very honored that we have a few of our stellar Miss CEO ambassadors here today who are going to ask some of the questions that you brought forward to us before this workshop that you wanted answered. So today from the Miss CEO Ambassador team, we have Jennifer Tran, Alicia Shrivastava, Jessica Dooley, Lena Tantavi, and Anaya Bankston to help ask some of these questions that we're all wondering about during this time. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Robyn Woodman, and I will hand this off to her.
Nita, thank you so much for that great introduction and having me here today with Miss CEO to talk about well-being. I know that you have told me that investing in well-being is kind of an unusual topic to be talking about with the Miss CEO communities, but I do think, just like you, that it's really important. A little bit about myself. I am a leadership coach. And I like to say I work with women who are ready to create their own checklist for life. And what that means is sometimes we feel like we have to live our lives according to a certain recipe that's been handed to us. And I help women who stand up and say, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. I want to do things a little bit differently, but maybe they don't know how to go about doing it. So that's what I do. And then in regards to well-being, a little bit about me. I went through a particularly tough time in my 20s when my husband died unexpectedly. And it taught me so much about well-being and how important it is in my life to create it, to nurture it, and how it's one of the foundations of my life. So thank you for having me today so that I can share it all with you. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to do what I call level set. I saw some of the questions that were asked, and I think this creates a larger sense of where we are as a whole, meaning everybody in, around the world, everyone in the United States, because we've never been here before. We've never pandemicked, have we? We're not supposed to be good at this. It's not supposed to be something that we're like, I know exactly what to do because I've done this before and I'm going to do ABC. No, we've never been here before. So the first thing I want to let everyone know is give yourself a break. It's brand new. Even mental health experts are struggling. So if any of you are familiar with the work of Brené Brown, she is, I would say, the top when it comes to a mental health expert, a researcher in shame and vulnerability and well-being, and she is struggling. But the thing is she gets knocked down, she gets back up again, she gets up the next day, and she does it all again. And that's what this is all about. It's giving yourself and others the gift of grace, the gift of saying, it's okay, whatever has happened today, or I did a great job today, or I wish I would have done things a little bit differently, because tomorrow is a brand new day. And I really want to stress to give yourself the gift of grace. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, so this is kind of a little joke over here with the pyramid. This is called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what I want to point out is the higher needs begin to emerge when people feel that they have sufficiently satisfied the previous need. So if you look down at the base of the pyramid, it says psychological needs, basic needs. And then above that are the safety needs, security, safety. We are there. We are at that little green point on the pyramid. And so sometimes we get into the mindset of, and I'm sure you guys have seen this floating around social media, like, why am I not writing the great American novel? Why am I not learning how to speak Mandarin or French or whatever, why am I not doing these things? Well, we are pandemicking for the first time, and we are concerned about safety and shelter and basic things. So that's what I would like to say about that, just to level set.
Hey everyone, so I'm a rising senior at Mesquite High School from Gilbert, Arizona. And so I have a question for Robyn. So as students, like most of us here are students, we're high school students and we're juggling so many different things. One side effect of juggling so many things is burnout. So Robyn, do you have any tips on how we can combat burnout and bounce back from these things?
Thank you so much for asking this question. I too am having bouts of burnout as well. I'm sure that Nita has. It is something that is, I think, expected to happen right now. And here's what works for me. The first thing I do is, typically my burnout's coming if I'm in front of the screen too much or I've taken on too many responsibilities. And so the first thing I do is take care of me. That could be shutting my computer. It could be not having any screen time. It could be going outside for a walk, which is huge for me. I also have a bike, so I like to go outside. So it's identifying specific things for yourself that bring you joy. That is the first thing that you can do to combat burnout. And then the other things we're going to talk about here in the presentation, and I'm glad that you asked that question because I have some things to talk about next that I think are going to help with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Alicia, and I'm a rising junior at Doherty Valley High School. And my question for Robyn is, if I'm feeling unmotivated, what should I do to combat that?
If you're feeling unmotivated, what should you do? First, you should join the club. Because I think there are definitely times that we can all feel unmotivated about something. And I think it goes along with burnout. So lots of times we're feeling unmotivated because of burnout. We've had too many things going on, and it's time, it's a reset, right? It's a time to take care of yourself. So stepping away from whatever is on your plate that feels really heavy is a good thing to do. So identifying the things in your life that bring you joy. And later in the presentation, when we talk about setting a schedule or setting your day, we're going to talk about some ways to identify those and then implement into your daily routine. Thank you so much for that question. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about here is, just to back it up a little bit, is the importance of self-accountability. So we know what accountability is, and we need to be accountable to our parents and to our classmates and to our teachers and to a variety of different people in our lives. But the most important thing that we can do is be accountable to ourselves. So what does that look like? Self-accountability is about showing up for yourself because it benefits your bigger goals. So during this time when you may feeling burnout or you're feeling like you're juggling all the things, really ratchet it down and look right in what's right in front of you, and what's in front of you is yourself. How can I be accountable to myself? Being accountable to yourself also builds trust and confidence in yourself. So you're like, okay, I can really do this. Let me give you an example. Let's say that in the fall, you're going to take a big standardized test, some entrance exam, and you know that you need some practice on reading quickly because there's a lot of essay questions, and you know that you really want to be up on that, and you've set a goal for yourself to read a specific text or something every day for 30 minutes. Showing up, setting that small goal for yourself and showing up for that can really build trust in yourself for being accountable. Like, I can do this. I can do this. And, over and over again throughout the week, and then the months, even those days that maybe you don't want to, it's building that trust in yourself. And then this in turn, because someone asked, I saw a question, I thought this was very interesting. How can I lead other people during this time? You lead by example, which is something that we all know. And you also lead by caring. So one of the things that you can do is, when you're accountable to yourself, is other people around you will see that. And in turn, they will be positively affected. Think about this. How many times have you been around a friend of yours or a classmate that you have seen who really shows up for themselves and has good boundaries, and you just felt like positively impacted about that? Like, wow, she really is doing X, Y, and Z for herself. That's really cool. I wonder where in my life I could also be doing these things for myself. So think about really showing up for yourself in this time. That's the most important thing you can do, because once you show up for yourself, you can show up for others.
Hi, I'm Jessica Dooley, and I'm also a Miss CEO ambassador, and I'm a rising senior at Los Altos High School. And of the many things I do, Miss CEO is definitely one of my favorite things, and it brings me like a lot of joy, and I love participating in it. But I found that, like, especially in this time, I've begun to like feel kind of stuck or down, just when I'm not allowed to do as much, or like when my lifestyle's really changed. And I was kind of wondering, like, what do you suggest like I and like my peers kind of do about that?
Okay, thank you for that question. Absolutely. Thank you, Anita, for advancing the slide. The first thing I want you to do is, if you're feeling stuck or you're feeling low about yourself, the first thing I want you to do is what I call the art of noticing. I want you to become an expert on yourself. It is the most important job you can have, because if you're feeling a certain way about yourself or about what's going on around you, the first thing to understand is, what are those things that are affecting me? What doesn't make me feel great? What gives me joy and what affects my joy? Let me give you an example. Here in the Bay Area, for the last couple of days, it's been very, very hot. I personally am very affected by hot weather. I know this about myself. I have noticed how I feel when this happens. So when you think about, you have pandemic, you have hot weather, and it starts layering on, and you don't feel good, right? And when you notice that about yourself, then you can do something about it, because sometimes we won't notice the root cause. Let's say I'm like, I don't feel good. I'm going to eat some chocolate. Chocolate's fine. But, if every time I don't feel good, I'm eating chocolate, that's not really helping me out. What I need to do is notice why, so that then I can do something about it. So if I know that I'm really affected by the heat, then I'm going to make sure I sit in front of a fan. I'm going to make sure that, during the hottest part of the day, that I've set myself up for success, that I'm not going to be by the window or the shades are drawn, or I'm not going to try to have really hard Zoom meetings for 4 hours in the afternoon when I'm baking in the sun, right? So the first thing I want you to do is be accountable to yourself. And the second thing I want you to do is I want you to notice about yourself. I want you to become an expert on you. And that will set you up for success, because you have noticed what the problem is, or when you don't feel good, and then you can move on from there and make the necessary adjustments.
Hi, Robyn. I'm a junior at Leland High School. My name is Lena. And first off, I wanted to thank you so much for joining us today. But I noticed one thing during this pandemic that's been especially hard for me, because I have both my parents work and I have 2 younger sisters. So my house is really busy. So I found it really hard to create or find space for me to personally work on what I want to do. So I was just wondering if you could help us out with that.
Ooh, Lena, me too. I do not have 2 younger sisters in my house, but I have enough going on in my house, so I understand these things. Thank you for asking that question. Okay, so when you're feeling very pressed within your house, within yourself, I like to carve out and create some space for myself. And sometimes you can't get that physical space, right? Yet you can't, there's not a spare room where no one is. But often what I find is when I'm not feeling great about something, it's because I'm crowded in my head. That's usually what it is. Maybe the to-do list, or I have to do this, or what about this, or I'm thinking too much about the news that I just read on my phone, or whatever it is. And so I rely heavily on ritual, the power of ritual. So something that I do, micro moments for myself. So let me give you a scenario. Maybe the house doesn't wake up really early in the morning, and you could go into the kitchen and you could have your favorite mug and you make some tea for yourself, or you have a glass of water in the morning, and it's something that can set you on a path for success for that day. And it just gives me joy. I have my mug that I want to use. I know that I'm going to have coffee. Yeah, maybe I'm walking into 5 hours of Zoom calls for that day, but I know in that moment I have this thing, this ritual. And it's about setting intentions for yourself. So, and it doesn't, this takes practice. It's not like I pour my coffee and, I'm not thinking about something else. Sometimes I am, but sometimes I'm just like, okay, here's what's going to happen, Robyn. You're going to have your coffee. You're going to sit down in that chair. You're going to have some quiet moments for yourself, and you're just going to savor this. You're going to pick up that book and you're going to read a couple of pages out of a chapter, creating your own special things. So going back to the question that Lena asked, that has nothing to do with your sisters. It has nothing to do with your parents. It's about you and carving out some space for yourself. And it really does give meaning to the day. So, another question, or another thing that I want to talk about in an example is this. So I'm sure that you have found that your days are all kind of running together, right? Like your Monday is same as your Friday, and then is same as your Saturday. So something that I have been doing as far as a ritual for myself is I really want to mark the weekend. I want to feel like a little bit of a celebration on like Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. So something that I do is I bake. I know that I shut my computer at 3:50. I'm not going to Zoom anymore. I turn on Spotify. I have a playlist, and I go into the kitchen. I clean up the kitchen because I want to cook in a clean kitchen. And then I start baking. And that signifies that, okay, I take a deep breath. It just feels different. I'm trying to give myself a ritual and moments that I can really hold on to give myself some space from everything that just kind of builds on one another. And so when I think about my days, I think about how can I build these rituals into my day's structure. Another one is, for example, in the morning, I have a very specific ritual for washing my face. Sometimes I don't want to do it. Sometimes we just feel like we don't want to do a thing, but that's about being accountable to ourselves, because after you do that thing that you get joy from, right? But there's always that resistance sometimes, right? Like, no, I don't want to do. Yes, you want to wash your face. Go wash your face. So after that ritual, I feel more calm because I have taken 7 minutes to take care of myself. And that's what well-being is about, is being well and taking care of yourself.
Hi, Robyn.
Hi.
My name is Anaya Bankston. I am a rising senior at Oakland Technical High School. And I've just been finding my days feeling overwhelmed, and I'm feeling like everything is crashing into each other between internship Zoom calls and my educational Zoom calls. So I was just curious on if you have any advice on how I should balance my daily professional and academic demands.
Yes, I do. I have some advice on that. I have similar types of things going on. I think we all do. So this is a really great question for all of us, and thank you for asking it. If we can advance the slide, thank you. So creating structure in our days, it doesn't have to be considered, or, you don't have to think about it as not giving yourself freedom. Instead, when you think about giving structure to your days, our tendency is, when we finally get down to business, like, okay, that's it. I'm going to create some structure. I'm going to do this thing. It doesn't have to be like that. In fact, if you sit down and write a whole big thing for yourself on day one, you likely are, maybe you'll do it for a day, maybe you'll do it for 2 days, but then on day 3, you'll be like, I don't know, I don't want to do this. And then you didn't follow the structure that you set for yourself, and then your accountability goes down, and you're going to end up feeling not great about it. So my advice for creating structures, and we'll get to some examples, but creating structure for your day is, the first thing you want to do is you want to start small and add slowly. So let me give you an example. Let's say, in the morning, that's the quiet time in the house, and you really like to be up in the morning. And so you're going to start off with your structure for your day, and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to get up at 7:30, and I'm going to go into the living room, and I'm going to read a chapter of this book I really like while I drink my tea for the morning. Or I'm going to sit in the chair that I really like that I can never get to because my brother and sister are always in it. And I'm going to make a plan for the day. Or I'm just going to look out the window because I like the tree in the front yard, right? You're going to start slowly and add things in. And then maybe, the next day you add something else in. You're like, okay, I know that I really want to be reading 30 minutes. And so that really works well for me to do at like 9 o'clock. So as you're balancing the different things, give yourself a mix of things to do throughout the day, but also landing points. So rather than structuring your day, like every minute, like 10 to 10:15, 10:15 to 10:30, 10:45, don't do that. Give yourself some free time, some bigger slots. So maybe you have like internship stuff to be doing, right? So give yourself like maybe an hour and a half in the morning where that's when you're working on your internship stuff. And if it doesn't make, and I don't know how this can work with your personal schedule, so make it work for you, but just give yourself windows of time where you're focusing on that rather than, oh, this email just came in and I need to take care of it. Because if you're all over the place within things that you have to do, we'll often feel run down by them because you're constantly switching gears. Whereas if you give yourself a container throughout the day, then you can give yourself a little bit of peace. And then when I say mix it up, when I say mix your structure up, it is a balance, just as you said. You have your internship duties, you have your school duties, but you also want to make sure that you have time in there for yourself to rest, meaning rest your brain, and also do creative things or things outside that you really want to do. So maybe you're working on writing a short story, schedule that in. You deserve that time too. So I think our tendency is to go really hard during the day on things that other people have asked of you. So you have your internship duties, you have your school duties, and to really just go hard on those things, that's great. but also work time in for yourself, even if it's 15 minutes, because you're going to find your productivity and how efficient you are at working on the other things are going to be really replenished when you replenish yourself. So make sure that you're doing that throughout your day. And I'm open to taking any questions on structuring your day as well. And I just have some examples coming up.
Hey Robyn, my name is Andrea Magdaleno and I'm a senior currently at Aptos High School, so not nearby, like most of the girls. So I've definitely have wanted to do, like you mentioned, you know, add structure to my day, get a breather, because right now it's just crazy with, you know, graduating and then doing so many other things. So how can I, you know, set my mentality to that in order to able, you know, to get it done, to make sure I do it? Because one thing is, you know, like writing it down and saying, oh yes, I will do it, but the next thing you know, like you won't, or you're just midway. So how can I make sure I do persevere to do that?
Great question. Thank you for bringing that up. I don't want you to just write things down and then not do them and feel bad about it. That is not the intent of this at all. So as a follow-up, what we're going to be doing is in the newsletter, we're going to be sending out a list of resources so that follow up on some of these things we're talking about. So making sure that you get things done, how to fight overwhelm, structuring your day. And there's a couple of tricks that I have. One of them is I give myself 25-minute working blocks of time. So what I do is I pick up my phone, I set a timer on my phone, it's for 25 minutes, and I know that I am not doing anything else except working on that one task for those 25 minutes. It is not allowed to click over to another tab. It is not allowed to get up because I need a drink of water. I don't need a drink of water. I'm going to be fine because I have my water right next to me. So 25-minute working blocks of time really works for me, and you can experiment with that. Because I know that as soon as I hit that timer, that's all I'm doing. And then as soon as those 25 minutes are over, I give myself a break. Depending on what I have going on, I can give myself a 7-minute break, a 10-minute break, and I'll even time those too. So when I'm in crunch time and I have no room to not be doing that, that is one of my favorite things to do in order to get something done. Okay, want to move on to some examples for creating structure? Okay, so a structure for your day is not going to be the same as your brothers, your sisters, your moms, or anybody, but you can take elements from different things so that you can build it for yourself. And rather than thinking of this as I failed or I did it or I made the structure, think of it as a grand experiment. And what you're doing is you're collecting data. You're collecting data. So let's say here we are right now, it's Thursday afternoon, you're gonna try to structure your day. Maybe tomorrow's an experiment day and you're gonna be like, okay, I've been feeling a little bit like all over the place. I wanna create a structure for tomorrow morning. My advice to you, going back to what I had said before, is start small, add slowly. So let's say that you're gonna designate a get up time. Don't say that you're going to get up at 6 a.m. if you know you're not an early riser and you're going to hit snooze for 45 minutes, because then you're not going to feel great about it, right? Maybe realistically, you know you're going to get up at 7:30. Great. You're going to get up at 7:30. That's the first thing on the structure for your day. And I like to do small things to get the ball rolling and to really feel good about accomplishments. Sometimes on a list of things to do, I'll write things down I already did if I feel like I have to like cross them off my list, that's fine too. So if you look at some of the examples I have here, these are the things that can work you up to the bigger things, right? I'm going to get up at a consistent time. I'm going to make my bed. Your morning care routine, whatever that is. Mine is I make sure I wash my face. Some people like to work out in the morning. Some people don't ever want to work out in the morning, and that's okay too. Maybe they like to do that at 4 p.m. I'm going to get dressed. We are at home in a pandemic. I realize that there are a lot of days where people are not putting clothes on. I have not put clothes on and stayed in my pajamas during the pandemic. But what I could tell you is on those days I did that, I did not feel great about my day. I didn't feel like it ever really started. And I learned my lesson. I took in that piece of information and then I realized that's not for me. If you feel like you need some accountability, so going to the last question about how to make sure I can get something done, one of my other tricks is getting some accountability from someone. So whether that's you text your friend and you say, listen, tomorrow I have to work on this application and I have to finish it. And I need you to check in with me to make sure that I actually have done it. That really helps. Accountability, however you operate the best. I am very big on accountability. If I tell someone I'm going to do something, that's it. Like, I'm doing it. And so it really helps me to have someone check in with me to make sure that I've done something. You might want to build into your day outside time. Personally, that really works for me. And sometimes there's so much to do that if I don't have it scheduled in, I won't go outside. And then I'm like, oh, it's 8 p.m. and I didn't go outside today. Other routine things that you would normally do when it's not pandemic time. So walk the dog, check the mail, maybe you're responsible for taking the garbage out weekly. Whatever those things are, try to still have them in your day. And the other thing I really want to say is please put your phone down. Put your phone down, because it's really amazing the things that you can get done, but also just feel like you have space if you don't have the screen staring at you all the time. Okay. Practicing gratitude and staying connected. So there's a couple of things I would like to say about this. So the hallmark of resiliency. So when you think about when you're in a situation, you have some people that are you've heard people say, or you consider people resilient. I know that after my husband died unexpectedly, there was a lot I had to go through after that. And a couple of hallmarks of being resilient is understanding whatever you're in doesn't affect everything. So right now we're in the midst of a pandemic, we're in COVID. Understand that it doesn't reach everywhere and everything. So here's what I mean by that. We can still sit around the table with whoever we're sheltered in place with. We can still get on the phone and we can talk to our people who are not sheltered in place with. We can still enjoy a good cup of coffee. We can still enjoy a nice plate of food. There are things that we have available to us that don't have anything to do with COVID. And the second thing is understanding that this time that feels so foreign to us will eventually end. There will be a point in time when this situation that we are in right now is going to shift considerably. And so resilience is about understanding it doesn't affect everything, and eventually it's going to end. Yeah, we're going to emerge into a different world, but where we are right now, there's going to be phases and we are going to move out of it. Another way that I find really helps me in life, not just during pandemic when we're pandemicking, but staying connected to myself and also people closest to me. So something that I've done is every Thursday night, I connect with, I have a Zoom call, a weekly Zoom call with my family that I don't normally see. And so it's really awesome to get on the Zoom call with my father and my 2 aunts and my brother, and we're all across the country. And we never did that before. That is not something we did, but now it's my Thursday night routine. So those are the kinds of things that are really helping me. And then also reveling in everyday joyful moments. Just finding a lot of joy in things that maybe I wasn't paying attention to before, or maybe I was off doing something else and I'm really just back connecting. I mean, even like seeing my dad and my 2 aunts on Zoom every week is a really big deal. So I'm finding a lot of joy in those kinds of things. And I would urge you to think about for yourself some things that you could set up that would give you joy and allow you to stay connected. Okay. I am
great.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to watch this recording many, many times over. You had so many helpful things to share, but please tell the students how they can reach you, because I'm sure they're also thinking about questions as you were speaking.
I would love to hear from anyone who has a comment or a question. You can email me at robyn@robynwoodman.com. And I am pretty active on Instagram as well. And I'm always producing content on my site, on my blog. So if there's something that you would like to hear about, more about, and I can write an article for you, I can share some resources with you, I would love to do that. That is something that very much brings me joy. So please be in touch and let me know.
That's such a generous offer. I hope students take that to heart. The fact that Robyn is willing to spend some time to actually sort of customize some material to this specific age group is huge. We still have a few minutes. I wanted to thank everybody who stayed on, and I know that I've been getting a lot of comments people are sending my way telling me how helpful this has been for them, especially at this time. So I'm just going to open it up for questions. Again, just so that we're not speaking all over each other, if you don't mind putting your questions in the Zoom chat window. And make sure you're on mute just in case I'm kind of picking up some background noises. Lily, I believe Lily is also an Missio ambassador. You had a question for Robyn.
So I'm Lily. I am currently a freshman at Stanford Online High School. And right now, our school is obviously very busy with a lot of finals and final projects. And I find myself specifically getting very, very stressed out during the test. I was wondering if you had any tips on how to stay calm.
Nita, could you repeat what Lily said? I couldn't hear her very well.
Sorry, Lily, there's a little bit of audio issue. Was it staying calm during taking tests during this time?
Yes, yeah, like finals and just all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, online finals. Oh, goodness. So, I mean, it's just an added layer, right? Like you're like, first it's a final and then you have to do it online. I think that really before you go into the final, setting your environment up, that's something that I find a lot of safety in, and just doing that. And then understanding, I always like to remind myself when I walk into something that I am a human who is doing my very best at this, and that is what I'm going to sit down and do. And I don't say that to you to kind of be like a Pollyanna and be like, it's all going to be okay. but more of as you're taking a test, you have prepared, you're doing the very best that you can. And if you find yourself in the middle of the test being overwhelmed, just stepping away from it for a minute and deep breathing and reminding yourself that this will be over at the very end of it. And you're going to, and life is going to go on. And again, I don't mean to be like, oh, it'll be fine, but it also will be fine, right? And so just remembering that you are doing the very best that you can, and that's all you need to ask from yourself. That's it.
I agree, Robyn. I also like that you mentioned, I think that I like how you started off your talk with the fact that we are not supposed to be good at pandemics. It's not a regular occurrence. So if you are struggling, we all are struggling, all of us. And I think that that's our shared experience in this. There's no right way to do a pandemic. Nope. And we're figuring it out together. That being said, Claire actually has a really good question. Something that I'm struggling with myself, because we started out this year, or a lot of us are very motivated individuals, and we have these to-do lists and this level of productivity that we were used to. Mm-hmm. And Claire is asking, how much should I commit to with other programs to create balance between what I can handle and what I want to do? As a high school student, I feel like I should be signing up for a lot of programs right now, but I feel like I might be signing myself up for too much. So Claire, what's the right amount to take on?
Claire, thank you so much for that question. So that is especially true right now, but in life, always, I feel like are always taking on too much, right? So the first thing is when someone presents you with something, I want you to notice how your stomach feels. What is the feeling that you feel in your gut? First thing, because I know when someone comes to me, or if I think like, ooh, I should do that, I also am going to either feel excited, fun, or excited, oh no. Because I know that what I'm about to put on my plate is going to be too much. So you said something in here that I think was really interesting, because I can see the question. I feel like I should. You should, because you feel like you need to be competitive with something, or you should because it's content that you need. Should is such a hard word, because unless you're like, okay, I have the bandwidth, I really want to do this. Should is kind of the opposite of that, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm already so busy, I don't know, but I feel like I should. You don't have to do that, Claire. You don't. You need to make sure that what you have on your plate is appropriate for what you can handle. And again, think of it as an experiment. Maybe you identify a couple of things that you want to do that are extra, that maybe aren't like right on your plate. Or maybe you have a period of time in the future that is going to be like, okay, I'm really busy with this right now, but starting July 15th, I know that I can do this. So just think about what feels good, because you actually know, Claire. You know if it feels good or not. So that's what I would advise you to do, is really to pay attention how you feel about that.
Thank you for that great question. I think we have time for one more, and I see a great one from Diana, specifically about how do you think about controlling stress, and especially, I think this is what Diana's talking about, the future, the unknown future of both our academic and personal lives. And I relate to this, and I know so many of the students have reached out to Miss CEO. There's so much unknown, whether it comes to fall and school, what does that mean? I think the unknown is actually taking a toll on families. You could probably see many of the students here, your parents and how they're handling this, and all of us are coming from very different circumstances, but it's all very, very difficult to process as a family unit, as well as and maybe with your friends. So what about all this unknown, Robyn? How do we even find some normalcy in this?
Yes, just as Nita said, every single one of us are feeling this. And the thing that I do is, rather than think about September, I think about today, maybe tomorrow, maybe Saturday as well. But when I start to what I call borrow trouble, and when I start to borrow trouble, it's because I'm looking too far in the future, because there's a whole lot of things going on out there that I cannot control. And really, we don't have control over things normally. We think we do, right? Think about how many times you thought you were going to go this way, and then all of a sudden something that happens and you have to go this way, right? It happens in life, right? And we didn't do things we didn't see coming. Because we're in the pandemic, it's so up in the air. And so to give yourself a little bit of breathing room, if you start to think about September and you're getting anxious, bring it back to May, right? And think, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't control it, but I do know that whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. You will be okay. And there's no use giving bandwidth to what's happening in September, because we don't know. If you're thinking about September and you feel like light, like, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen, great, keep on doing that. But if you find yourself getting anxious, bring it back to now and give yourself a little bit of break from thinking about it.
That's really helpful. That's extremely helpful. Let's try to be our best in the moment and be present, and control what we can control. Robyn, this was so incredibly useful and helpful. I know the students, based on their private messages to me and the nods that I'm seeing, that this is really resonating with a lot of us. In fact, we should probably had this in the beginning of the workshop series, since back in March, when we were all trying to figure out what this shelter in place means or meant for so many of us, and what that meant for our lives. But I think everybody will be happy to know, because I'm also getting a lot of questions. Yes, the recording will be made available, so you can watch this again. And many of you are probably watching this after the workshop as well, who could not attend in person. So Robyn, this was so helpful. And I'm happy that you provided your information and contact information for the students in case they're thinking of other questions that may come to mind after the fact.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really had a good time. I love talking to young women at this age, because I feel like I'm talking to me when I was there, and I really just love it so much. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity. And anyone who has private messaged me and I didn't get to your question, email me. I'm happy to, or DM me on Instagram. Happy to have the conversations.
Amazing. Thank you. The CEO is incredibly grateful to having amazing career speakers like you. That's what keeps our program so high caliber, is that we have so many amazing mentors and women leaders who do relate to the fact that we remember what it was like to be in high school and a lot of the things that we struggled with in terms of figuring out what's next, what should we be doing. So I would love for all of you to stay in touch with Miss CEO if you're not already a part of our social media newsletter. You'll hear about our upcoming events that way. I'm sure that it's also a place that you might find some relief in this community, given where we are right now. So we are a group of like-minded, motivated women who want to help each other succeed and feel empowered in these various stages of our life. And as Robyn mentioned, this idea of accountability, also being a part of Miss CEO, provides you with a sense of that. So you're able to find mentors and meaningful inspiration that helps you feel more accountable to things that you want to do. So thank you everybody for spending your afternoon with us. I look forward to staying in touch. Until next time, take care.